While the world fears a global food crisis threatening billions, Peruvian farmers quietly cultivate over 3,000 varieties of colorful potatoes that could feed millions. Yet 90% of people have never tasted a purple, yellow, or blue potato. This contradiction reveals one of agriculture's best-kept secrets, hidden high in the Andes Mountains. In Peru, the birthplace of the potato, each purple tuber contains 4 times more antioxidants than common commercial varieties. These ancient crops grow at altitudes where most plants cannot survive, in soils so rich they've sustained civilizations for 8 millennia, while industrial agriculture struggles with pesticide resistance and climate change. These traditional farmers produce 40 tons per hectare, using methods older than written history. The numbers are staggering. Peru hosts 60% of the world's potato biodiversity, with varieties displaying colors from deep purple to electric blue. These aren't genetically modified crops. They're nature's original superfood, preserved by indigenous communities who understood nutrition science centuries before laboratories existed. Each harvest season, over 600,000 farming families continue traditions that modern agriculture is desperately trying to replicate. But here's what makes this story truly remarkable. While we worry about feeding a growing population, the solution might already exist in these mountain communities. These colorful potatoes don't just survive in harsh conditions, they thrive, producing nutrient-dense food that can be stored for decades without refrigeration. Join us as we dive into the fascinating world of Andean potato cultivation, where ancient wisdom meets modern food security challenges, and discover how these purple gems could revolutionize global agriculture. The story of Peru's rainbow potatoes begins 8,000 years ago, when indigenous peoples first domesticated wild tubers in the Andes Mountains. What started as survival became science, as these early agriculturalists developed sophisticated breeding techniques that created the world's most diverse potato collection. Today, this ancient practice supports a $180 million annual industry that's catching the attention of global food scientists. These aren't ordinary potatoes. While commercial agriculture focuses on just a few high-yield varieties, Peruvian farmers maintain an incredible genetic library. Purple potatoes rich in anthocyanins, yellow varieties packed with carotenoids, and blue specimens containing unique compounds that modern medicine is only beginning to understand. Each color represents different nutritional profiles developed through centuries of careful selection. The economic importance extends far beyond Peru's borders. These heritage varieties are exported to gourmet markets worldwide at $12 per kilogram, 20 times the price of common potatoes. European restaurants prize their unique flavors and colors, while health food companies extract their antioxidants for supplements. The global superfood market, worth $137 billion annually, increasingly relies on these ancient varieties. What makes these potatoes truly valuable is their resilience. They naturally resist diseases that devastate commercial crops, grow in extreme altitudes where modern varieties fail, and require no pesticides or artificial fertilizers. As climate change threatens global food security, agricultural researchers are investing $50 million to study these hardy varieties, hoping to transfer their genetic advantages to commercial crops. The scale is impressive. Peru produces over 180,000 tons of native potatoes annually across 280,000 hectares. This production sustains entire mountain communities while contributing to international food security programs in 23 countries, where these nutritious tubers help combat malnutrition in vulnerable populations. The journey begins at 4,000 meters above sea level, where the air is thin and temperatures can drop below freezing even in summer. Here, in terraced fields carved into mountainsides centuries ago, farming families act as genetic guardians, selecting seed potatoes from varieties their ancestors have preserved for generations. Selection is both art and science. Experienced farmers examine each potato for size, color intensity, disease resistance, and storage quality. They know that a slightly deeper purple indicates higher antioxidant content, while specific skin textures suggest better cold tolerance. This knowledge, passed down through oral tradition, rivals modern agricultural science in its precision and effectiveness. The preparation process starts in September, during Peru's dry season. Farmers carefully sort seed potatoes by variety, size, and intended planting location. Different colored varieties require specific elevation ranges. Deep purple potatoes thrive above 3,800 meters, while yellow varieties prefer slightly lower altitudes. Each variety has optimal soil conditions that farmers have mapped across their territories over generations. Before planting, seeds undergo traditional treatments using natural compounds. Farmers create organic fungicide solutions from local plants like munya, Andean mint, and apply ash from burned crop residues to prevent pest damage. These methods, developed long before chemical agriculture, prove remarkably effective in the harsh mountain environment. The planting ritual follows lunar cycles, with farmers believing that moon phases affect tuber development. Scientific research now supports these traditional practices, showing that gravitational forces do influence plant growth patterns. Planting occurs between October and December, when soil moisture levels are optimal and frost risk decreases. Soil preparation involves ancient techniques still unsurpassed by modern methods. Farmers use foot plows called chaquitakala to create precise furrows that maximize water retention and prevent erosion. They incorporate llama manure aged for exactly 1 year. Fresh manure would burn young plants, while older manure lacks nutrients. This timing knowledge represents centuries of agricultural experimentation. The initial growing conditions are extreme by any standard. Nighttime temperatures regularly drop to 5 degrees Celsius, while daytime heat can reach 25 degrees Celsius. These dramatic temperature swings, which would kill most crops, actually strengthen potato plants and concentrate nutrients in the tubers. The intense ultraviolet radiation at high altitude stimulates production of protective compounds that give these potatoes their exceptional antioxidant properties. Over the next 4 months, these hardy tubers develop in conditions that would challenge even the most resilient commercial varieties. The growing process requires constant monitoring and specialized care that combines traditional wisdom with environmental adaptation techniques refined over millennia. Farmers practice crop rotation systems called muyui that prevent soil depletion and break pest cycles. Fields are divided into sections, with each planted to different crops in precise sequences. Potatoes in year 1, followed by quinoa, then barley, and finally left fallow for several years. This system naturally restores soil fertility and controls diseases without chemical interventions. Water management in these high-altitude environments requires sophisticated understanding of seasonal patterns. Farmers build intricate channel systems that capture morning dew and seasonal rainfall, directing precious water to terraced fields through gravity-fed irrigation networks. During dry periods, they employ traditional cloud seeding techniques, burning specific herbs that attract moisture from passing clouds. The development phase involves careful monitoring for pests and diseases. Farmers use companion planting strategies, growing aromatic herbs like tarwi alongside potatoes to repel insects naturally. They recognize subtle signs of plant stress weeks before problems become visible, adjusting care routines based on leaf color changes, growth patterns, and soil conditions. Technology meets tradition, as some progressive farmers now use solar-powered sensors to monitor soil moisture and temperature while maintaining traditional planting and care methods. This hybrid approach optimizes yields while preserving genetic diversity and cultural practices that modern agriculture is trying to replicate. Quality control happens throughout the growing season. Farmers regularly inspect developing tubers, removing diseased plants to prevent spread and selecting the healthiest specimens for next year's seed stock. This ongoing curation maintains the genetic integrity that makes these varieties so valuable to global agriculture. As harvest approaches, farmers watch for specific signs: leaves turning yellow, stems beginning to dry, and tubers reaching optimal size. Unlike mechanized agriculture that harvests by calendar dates, traditional farmers read their crops' natural rhythms, timing harvest to maximize both yield and storage quality. This attention to plant biology results in potatoes that can survive decades of storage without losing nutritional value. The expertise required for this cultivation rivals any modern agricultural system. These farmers are essentially managing living genetic banks, preserving biodiversity that could prove crucial for global food security, while maintaining productivity levels that support their communities economically. Harvest time transforms entire communities into coordinated production teams. Between May and July, when the Andean winter begins, families gather to collect their colorful bounty using methods that preserve both quality and genetic integrity of these precious varieties. The harvesting technique is remarkably precise. Farmers use specialized wooden tools called racanas to carefully unearth tubers without damage. Each plant yields 15 to 20 potatoes of varying sizes, colors, and characteristics. Harvesters sort potatoes immediately into categories: large specimens for immediate consumption, medium ones for storage, small tubers for seed stock, and damaged ones for animal feed. Nothing is wasted. Processing begins in the field with traditional selection methods. Farmers spread harvested potatoes on woven blankets, allowing families to identify and separate varieties with practiced eyes. Purple potatoes with the deepest colors go to premium markets, while lighter specimens are processed for local consumption. This visual sorting, performed by generations of experience, rivals modern optical sorting technology in accuracy. The most fascinating process is the creation of chuño, freeze-dried potatoes that can last decades. This ancient technique takes advantage of high-altitude conditions where temperatures drop below freezing at night but warm during the day. Potatoes are spread on flat areas and left exposed for 3 to 7 days, allowing natural freeze-thaw cycles to remove moisture while preserving nutrients. Fresh processing creates multiple products with distinct market values. Premium purple potatoes sell for $12 per kilogram in international markets, while processed flour commands $8 per kilogram. Traditional chips made through solar drying fetch $15 per kilogram in specialty stores. The most valuable product is concentrated anthocyanin extract from purple varieties, worth $200 per kilogram to pharmaceutical companies. Distribution follows both traditional and modern channels. Local markets receive fresh potatoes through ancient barter systems, while export markets require careful packaging to maintain quality during transport. Specialized cooperatives have developed cold chain logistics that preserve the integrity of these delicate varieties during international shipping. Quality control involves rigorous testing that combines traditional knowledge with modern standards. Export potatoes undergo visual inspection by experienced farmers, moisture content testing, and increasingly, laboratory analysis for nutritional compounds. This dual-standard system ensures products meet both cultural authenticity requirements and international food safety standards. This rainbow potato industry directly employs over 600,000 farming families across Peru's highland regions, making it one of the country's largest agricultural employers. These aren't just subsistence farmers. Many earn more per hectare than industrial potato operations through premium pricing and value-added processing. The economic ripple effects extend throughout rural communities. Potato farming supports seed merchants, traditional tool makers, textile workers who create storage bags, and transporters who move products to markets. In many highland villages, potato cultivation provides 70% of household income, enabling families to invest in education and healthcare that would otherwise be impossible. International markets increasingly recognize the value of these ancient varieties. Europe imports 15,000 tons annually, primarily for high-end restaurants and health food markets. Japan pays premium prices for purple potatoes used in traditional confections, while North American markets demand yellow varieties for gourmet cooking. This export trade generates $45 million annually in foreign currency for Peru. The industry's impact on food security extends globally. These hardy varieties are being introduced to marginal agricultural areas in Africa, Asia, and Central America, where their disease resistance and nutritional density help combat malnutrition. The World Food Program has integrated purple potato flour into nutrition programs serving 2.3 million children across 23 countries. Research investment flowing into these communities has reached $50 million annually. Universities and agricultural companies study these varieties to understand their genetic advantages, providing employment for local researchers and farmers as genetic consultants. This knowledge transfer generates additional income while preserving traditional farming wisdom. Compared to Peru's mining industry, potato cultivation provides more stable, sustainable employment with less environmental impact. While mining operations employ 200,000 people temporarily, potato farming provides permanent livelihoods for 3 times as many families while preserving cultural traditions and biodiversity. Future projections suggest continued growth, with climate change increasing demand for resilient crop varieties. Market analysts predict the heritage potato industry could triple in value within a decade as global agriculture seeks solutions to environmental challenges that these traditional systems have already solved. But this success story carries complex ethical implications that challenge our understanding of intellectual property and cultural preservation. While corporations invest millions studying these ancient varieties, the indigenous communities who preserved them for centuries often remain among Peru's poorest populations. The biopiracy debate intensifies as companies attempt to patent genetic characteristics from traditional varieties. Several international firms have filed patents on compounds extracted from purple potatoes, despite these being developed through millennia of indigenous breeding. This raises fundamental questions about who owns genetic heritage and whether traditional knowledge can be commercialized without community consent. Environmental concerns add another layer of complexity. Increased commercial production could pressure farmers to abandon traditional rotation systems and biodiversity preservation practices in favor of higher yields. The delicate balance between conservation and commercialization requires careful management to avoid destroying the very diversity that makes these crops valuable. Worker welfare issues emerge as traditional farming communities encounter global market pressures. Fair trade organizations work to ensure farmers receive appropriate compensation, but power imbalances between small producers and international buyers remain significant. Some communities worry that commercial success might erode cultural practices and traditional knowledge systems. Sustainability questions challenge the industry's growth trajectory. Can traditional farming methods scale to meet global demand without losing their environmental advantages? Some progressive cooperatives experiment with certified organic production that maintains traditional principles while accessing premium markets. But this transition requires substantial investment and education. The genetic preservation dilemma presents perhaps the greatest challenge. As climate change threatens global agriculture, these hardy varieties could provide crucial genetic resources for crop development. However, extracting this genetic material for commercial breeding programs might reduce incentives for communities to maintain traditional cultivation practices that preserve biodiversity. What responsibility do consumers bear when purchasing these products? Supporting traditional farmers through fair trade purchases can provide economic incentives for biodiversity conservation, but market demand might also pressure communities to prioritize commercial varieties over rare specimens with cultural significance. As you consider these purple potatoes' journey from ancient Andean terraces to modern supermarket shelves, what role should traditional knowledge play in global food security? Can we harness these agricultural treasures without exploiting the communities who preserved them? The answers may determine whether these rainbow potatoes represent hope for sustainable agriculture or another example of cultural appropriation in our globalized food system. What do you think about the balance between preserving traditional farming and meeting global food needs? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the hidden world of sustainable agriculture.